Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to London, England, for the press conference for X004. Now, I'm joined up here today with our esteemed partners, DAZN, the CEO of North America, Joe Markowski, joins us, and of course, the undisputed king of crossover boxing, Mr. KSI.
Yeah.
Now, it's been a wildly entertaining half a year for Misfits Boxing. We've smashed records, viewing numbers, gone from our major kickoff event in the O2 in August. We've seen the historic 2 fights in one night by the man to the right of me. We've then got on to Sheffield with X002, X003 in Austin, and now, as promised, the blockbuster on January 14th in Wembley Arena. Now, of course, we were all expecting to have both fighters here today. We were informed yesterday that Mr. Danis was unable to make his plane booked for him due to preferring to concentrate on training after having suffered a bout of influenza, we believe, and concentrate rather on the fight, which is in just under 1 month today. That being said, we are expecting him to join us on stream. He hasn't quite surfaced yet. I'm sure KSI will have some things to say about that in a minute. But moving on from, or beginning with the corporate part of things, and let's say the takeover of the crossover world of boxing by Misfits in the last 6 months, we thank very much, of course, our partners at stake, and naturally the insanely incredible Prime Hydration, but also, of course, our exclusive global broadcast partners, and also a big mastermind behind the X series, Mr. Joe Markowski. Joe, thank you for joining us you made it from New York yesterday. Unfortunately, Dillon didn't quite get on your plane.
I did. Planes were running from New York.
They were, just checking that.
To confirm that. But yeah, thank you for having us. Good to be here with you and JJ. Listen, I think 3 years ago, DAZN was foundational in the elevation of crossover boxing to the level we're now at with KSI, Logan Paul 2. That event sort of whet our appetite hugely for this space. COVID was clearly a disruptive force on that, but we always wanted to get back into the space in a really meaningful way. I think that vision was shared by yourself and by JJ and by other leaders in the space. And so we are extremely excited to be delivering events of scale and consistently doing that with the X Series. We're truly very excited about it. It's one of the most exciting parts of our business globally. It's got true global interest. Clearly the US and the UK are our sort of foundational markets, but the ambitions we have, and I know they're shared with yourself and with JJ and with everyone at Misfits, is to take this thing global. We're tremendously excited about what we can do together in 2023 and beyond, but right at the start of the year, January 14th, a major pay-per-view with huge interest, proper crossover event, obviously with the MMA crowd that follow Danis. We're very excited to be the exclusive global broadcaster of that event, and going forward, very excited to be partnering with both yourself and JJ, so thank you.
And I think when I look at the card here, I think one big success factor, unfortunately, our partner Mams Taylor is not with us here today, but is watching from the States. I look at this card, and we were just talking about it a minute, JJ, ago. You've got names on there now as well, which for your subscriber base, but also for our fans, become regulars. So you've got the likes of Slim, Salt Pappy, Ryan Taylor returning, and you start to see the vision of where we will go on from 004 to 005 and far into the future, of building a sustainability and a consistency in a crazy space, but now a space that Misfits has occupied and controls.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the breadth of who can fight and who can participate in X Series events is really anyone with a public profile. That's the beauty of it. I think we've brainstormed about where this could go. Is it politicians? Is it is it rappers? Is it actors? Is it YouTubers? I think it can be everyone. We want to make sure that the door is open for everyone. We want to do that on a global basis, as I say. But I think for the sports industry, what we are trying to do with the X Series is hugely innovative. I think it's really important because as younger generations come into watching sport, obviously we want to engage them. We want them to be subscribers and customers of DAZN. The crossover of sport with new age celebrity, is how I describe it, is super important, I think, to engaging that next generation of sports fans and for DAZN for making them customers of our wider business. So we're tremendously excited and very proud to be foundational partners in all of this.
Thank you, and I would add to that, and I also feel that we are doing something for the whole boxing space in terms of attracting those young eyeballs, and that leads me on really to the man on my right, the man who occupies the space at the very top of the castle, the man who is so behind this movement, and someone who has dedicated so much time into this sport already, but approaches it as a true professional. And how else can I introduce you? The king of the castle. Over to you, Mr. KSI.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy KSI. Thank you, everyone, for coming. In terms of Dillon Danis not being here at the moment, I think it's quite disappointing, disrespectful to me and everyone who's here, expecting him to show up. But it's definitely not something I haven't seen before. Same thing happened with Alex Wasabi. We were meant to fight, and he obviously flaked. And I don't know. Maybe it's my presence. Maybe it's just me in general. Like, I'm just so much of a scary guy. But I can understand that. I'm a person that I'm very disciplined. I'm very focused. And if you look at my resume, I don't lose too many times. So I think for Dillon, that's probably seeping in. And I know he's undefeated himself, but I think looking at me in the eyes, even when we saw each other in Texas, I could tell, it was all a facade. Like, he had to pretend that he's bigger and stronger than he actually is. And it kind of shows, like, him not being here shows how little he really is, how small his mindset really is. And he says, I'm not a real fighter, but I'm always here, I'm always ready. And he, as someone who says is a real fighter, has not made the plane trip to fight me, or to see me, should I say, and then has not made even the Zoom call to see me. He is terrified. He's petrified of me. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing. But, either way, like, when I do see him in the ring, he'll understand that all the frustration and anger I have for him for, disrespecting me in this way will show January 14th. I'm a guy that whenever I am focused and whenever I want something, I will get it, no matter what. And, if anything, this makes me want to train harder. It makes me want to do more than I already am doing. It makes me want to do more sprints. It makes me want to do more bag work, do more sparring, do more of everything that I've been doing at such a high level. And, I'm ready for all things, whether it's, Dillon Danis, whether it's Tommy Fury, whether it's Jake Paul, whether it's any of these guys. Like, I am a different beast, and I will show it with all of these fights that I do. It's just a shame, honestly.
And I mean, I spoke to his manager yesterday, who said he didn't want to be, but he insisted on a video link, which we then organised, and clearly he hasn't appeared on now. Do you believe you're living rent free in his head right now?
I believe I am all he thinks about, and I think I'm in his nightmares. I think I'm constantly terrorizing him, haunting him, and it's making him slowly break down. It's making him feel like, wow, maybe I'm way in over my head. You know, I say this guy isn't a fighter. I say this guy is a phony, this, that. But when it comes to it, you know, when I see KSI in that ring January 14th, am I really ready to get in there with him? You know, many have tried to beat me and have failed. And does he really think he's going to be the guy to be able to beat me? I don't think so.
Well, the question I really wanted to ask him, but I'm going to sort of try and turn it into a question for you now, is he's obviously an undefeated MMA fighter, so we've got to give him credit for that part. He'll be, I'm assuming, working with striking coaches, working with boxing coaches. How do you and your team with Alexis and Marios, how are you preparing for it? What must be one of the hardest challenges is he's certainly a fighter on paper. We can't take that away from him. But it's an underscript when it comes to boxing. I mean, I felt the vibe in that ring in Texas before the armed police stormed the ring.
Yeah.
It was, you know, but it's not a grappling competition. It's not a competition on the floor. It's a stand-up man-on-man. How do you prepare for that? Is it like any other opponent? Have you been studying his moves inside a Bellator ring?
Well, I mean, with Dillon Danis, you know, we know he's a southpaw, and you know, we know he's a fighter. You know, throughout, like he's been training with Conor McGregor, etc. And you know, that's his job. His job is to fight. That's all he does. Whereas I'm not a fighter. I am a guy who has done YouTube as well as music. As you know, these are my career paths: YouTube, music. You know, I've got Prime, I've got XIX, Sides. You know, I make Simon videos. I do all these other things, and I also box. So that is, you know, a thing which again makes it so funny that I'm still here. You know, with all my schedule, with all everything that I do, and then he isn't. But yeah, with Dillon Danis, you know, we know with him an area that he thinks he's going to be advantageous is in the clinch. He thinks he probably can work away in the clinch and do certain moves in order for me to, you know, not know what I'm doing. And he thinks he'll have a better inside game than me. But we've been working on that. We've been working on making sure, you know, in the clinch, I'm doing work. You know, I'm not just in no man's land and lost. Same with, you know, the type of boxing that we've been, you know, working on, and the type of techniques, etc. You know, we've been working on new techniques, we've been working on new stances, working on new angle changes, and you know, shifting and all these other things to make sure when I get in that ring, I'm just an absolute animal. And I just want to see the fear in his face. I just want to see it in his eyes. I just want to see him crumble beneath me and just really understand that all the hard work and everything that I put into this, I'm going to unleash onto him. Yeah.
It's quite a statement. I mean, I can second to that. We're on our 5 days together in Austin. You arrived with the full training team when we were training over there. So I think if certain professionals had that mindset, they would also be a lot further in any career, actually. He's not here. Give it one final last message, because clearly there'll be millions of people watching this. What message, one-to-one, he's in front of you now, what do you say to Dillon now, KSI?
Well, I mean, Dylan, you're probably training hard, or you're probably thinking you can play mind games with me, but my mind is so strong, it's bulletproof, and nothing can penetrate. I am a man that has lived on the internet. I've heard the worst of the worst. I've been through it all publicly, you know, when it comes to, you know, family situations, or when it comes to just life in general. You know, a lot of it has been public, and I've had to go through all of that. So nothing you can do can break me. And when I get in that ring, I'm going to break you mentally and physically. And I don't want you to be able to ever say to anyone ever again that you are a fighter. I want the whole world to know that you're a piece of shit and you're getting fucked up.
It's a very clear statement. On that note, let's head to the floor for some questions.
Jolie here for Seconds Out. First things first, JJ. A lot of people were wondering, with Dillon not being here today, how likely do you think to pull out is? Obviously, Alex pulled out last fight. Are you worried about that?
I'm not worried about a pullout. I'm used to it. Yeah, if he wants to pull out, cool. You know, we have people ready to fight me instead. You know, there's a lot of people that want to fight me, and there's a lot of people that don't want to fight me. But if he does pull out, yeah, we've got people ready.
I just answered that from a promoter point of view as well. We've been assured he's in training. Spoke to his management yesterday. But yeah, you know, we are ready for everything. In this space, you have to be ready for everything, like you do in real boxing. I think I introduced the substitute system. It's the World Boxing Super Series, and we will have exactly the same setup here. They know that, but I do. You know, there's obviously a lot of money at stake as well. It's a big fight, and I would be surprised if there's a change of heart, given what they've told us yesterday. So no.
One fight on the undercard as well. Anthony Taylor, Idris Virgo surprised me. I really like that fight. Could you talk on that? I know you trained with Idris at Shoot.
Yeah, I train with Idris, and you know, he's working hard. He's working very hard. He's a good fighter, and he's training with the best of the best, and he's sparring, you know, the top fighters, and you know, I think this is hopefully going to be the first time we're going to see Anthony Taylor getting knocked out. I think it's a long time coming. You know, he's a man that loves clout. His whole game is clout. Everything to do with Anthony Taylor is just clout. You know, even when he hit Dillon Danis, and you know, he said he did it to you know, stand up for me. But I saw right through it. I just know everything he does is for himself. He just cares about himself. He cares about clout. So, you know, I can't wait for Idris to really get in that ring and just show him the power of shoot fires.
It's funny with Anthony Taylor. It's when you put with a series of events coming together, and you see them repeating, and it's developing its sort of own ecosystem. You see, I mean, wasn't Anthony Taylor, I think, a week before fighting on the streets of Dubai, and then a week later he's fighting on the streets of Austin in the car park. So you can see already the type of characters that you get. You know, I'm not going to mention any names, but in classic boxing, I could think of a few that are quite similar to Anthony Taylor. So, you know, we're hoping that the English boy does his business on Jan 14.
Calla and Joe as well, you touched on kind of appealing maybe to traditional boxing fans when you mentioned actors and other people that could step into Misfits boxing. Do you have any plans on appealing to traditional boxing fans?
I'll take that one. I think the products are separate for a reason. I think there is going to be some crossover, but it's a separate sports vertical in my opinion. It's targeting a different cohort of fans, a different sort of audience of fans. It skews younger. We previously experimented with crossover boxing on traditional boxing cards. We were criticised for that. I understand why. I think separating them is the sensible thing to do. The beauty of X Series is we now have a dedicated set of partners and a dedicated partnership together that is focused specifically on this space, and I think that's the right play. It definitely doesn't dilute our investment in traditional boxing. We're the world's largest investor in traditional boxing. We have a global schedule of traditional boxing events, major pay-per-views. This is a separate product, and I think it appeals to a different set of fans primarily. There will be crossover, and we're obviously open to that. But it each exists in their own lane, and that's good for us.
I'd just add to that, if you've got a new demographic signing up to DAZN, which has such a wide variety of boxing offerings, it's only natural that, and I actually remember one of JJ's posts right at the beginning when he was talking about the system, he said, oh look, you can see this fight and that fight, and you were surprised yourself how much is on that platform. It's a door opener for the young to go on there to watch their heroes like KSI, and then hopefully they'll look at it and say, oh well, there's a bit of that classic boxing, I'll look at that, you know, and that's the overall goal, of course.
I also think it's fantastic for traditional boxing that some of the world's leading marketeers, which is what these guys are, some of the world's leading business people, have chosen to play out their rivalries in the sport of boxing. It could easily be anything else. It could be any number of things inside and outside sport. The fact that boxing is the chosen medium for that to happen is great, I think, for traditional boxing, because what traditional boxing needs is lifeblood, and that comes from new fans and new ages and new generations of fans coming into the sport. This isn't the silver bullet, there isn't a silver bullet, but it will definitely help.
Brack Noble from Boxing UK. KSI, if you are to get past Dillon on the 14th of January, what are the possibilities we'll see yourself and Jake Paul headline at Wembley Stadium in 2023?
I mean, that has always been the goal. The goal has always been Jake Paul. You know, that's the reason why I've come back into boxing, to show everyone that Jake Paul is nothing. But yeah, it could be Wembley Stadium. It could be any stadium, you know, in the UK. It's going to happen. You know, we're negotiating at the moment, and yeah, we're working on making sure it's one of the biggest fights of all time.
And Kelly, you already peaked at millions of views for this whole Misfits venture. How much more can you grow this? How many more people can you expand to? How much more can you take this?
Well, I think that, you know, the beauty of it lies in consistency, in whatever you do in sports programming. And if you look at now that, I remember our first press conference for the O2, I do a lot of press conferences every year, and I was so nervous because I didn't know anyone who was up there really. Yeah, I was like asking Mams, asking JJ, like, well, we're talking a bit about this one, that one. The more consistency, the future of this space of Misfits, which provides a framework, a go-to place, a safe place to conduct your trade. That's what it is. That is not rocket science, what we're doing. We're just doing it in a serious way, in a very wacky and very entertainingly unserious world. That's what it is. And, you know, the likes of Ryan Taylor, we know he is a tough, excuse the language, bastard, right? And we know he's going to bring it absolutely on to Swarms, who, you know, he came up against the best in this segment and you know, came up second best, obviously, on that night. But has he looked at that and adapted? And that's a very interesting fight for me. So the more we see it, the more the characters pop up. And those ones will be headlining events in the future. That's the beautiful thing about this.
How's it going, JJ?
How you doing, Fred?
So for all the kind of influencers out there, kind of celebrities, rappers, if you could pick 3 names in the world today to add to Misfits Boxing, who would you add?
It's funny. I hope he doesn't get annoyed that I said this, but Wayne Rooney hit me up being like, "Oh, we should fight," and I said no. I just don't want to do that. I don't know, if Wayne Rooney is down, of course he can. I think it'd be good to have him in the space. I know Wayne Bridge is another person that's been interested in the space.
Rooney's a decent boxer. He used to box a bit. Rooney used to box a bit.
Yeah. No, I do know. I think for me, I've just got certain goals in mind, and maybe after Jake, if I feel like I want to do something after Jake, but we'll see. But what's his name? Who's the other?
Matt Hancock?
But I mean, to be honest, I did see him on.
You said politicians, that's why.
Yeah. Matt Hancock could. I mean, if he's down.
I'll send him a letter.
Yeah. I don't know. I literally, like, with this space, it could be anyone. It can literally be anyone who wants to fight can fight. That's just what Misfits is. And I think it's a space that's always growing, and it's something that, not even for me. I don't do it for money. I do it because I want to see how much I can improve as a human being. I think for me, I just, I've said it before, but I kind of want to feel like how Goku does when this is the whole anime talk, but when Goku is able to constantly push barriers in his body and push his, go into different Super Saiyans and just constantly pushing his body more and more. I feel like that's what's happening with me right now. Like, I'm constantly getting PBs with my running and my weightlifting and my sparring. I'm able to do more and more rounds. I'm able to fight, more than, one person with my sparring. Like, I'm fighting 2 people on rotation. Like, it's just, I'm able to just constantly improve. And because I've just stayed dedicated and focused and disciplined, I'm able to just put myself put my body in a way or in a mode that I never thought I'd ever be in, and I love it. I think it's sick. It's like a superpower, and I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit of a narcissist, but I do love myself, and I love just being able to just improve myself, and that's why I had therapy, because the idea of being able to control my mind and be stronger than other people, because I'm able to just understand why I think the way I think and why I do why I do the things that I do, and be able to constantly just be better. I just think it's amazing, and yeah, for me, I just love it. I just always just love being a better human being. I think there's something beautiful in that.
Do you think it's a kind of the self-improvement that motivates you, since the money doesn't?
I think that's it, yeah. I think for me, it's always just being able to improve myself, and just, because it's crazy. I remember when I was a kid and I would do cross country and I hated it. I'd hate running, and I thought it was the worst thing ever. And I'd always try and get to a point where the teachers wouldn't be able to see me, and I'd try and take shortcuts and all of this and that. Whereas now I just love it. I love running, and I love being able to beat my 5K or my 10K times. I love being able to beat my 400-meter sprint times. I love being able to last longer, do longer rounds in sparring, and be able to not just fight one person in sparring, but be able to fight 2. I love being able to just always be better. And for me, I hate getting injured, because I feel like it slows down my progress. So I'm just a progress-driven person, and I think it gives me purpose. And I think for me, that is it. That's what gives me purpose right now. Because it's funny, you'll see it in the doc, but in the doc, I definitely lost my purpose, and I definitely lost my way a bit, and I felt very empty. Whereas now I just feel so fulfilled and so good about my life, and therapy has helped tremendously, and also just having purpose in my life. So for me, making sure I breaks, Dillon Danis' face in January 14th, it's going to give me so much joy. And then breaking the next person, and then the next person, or whoever it is, and then eventually getting to Jake Paul and then destroying everything that he's built. I think it's going to be fantastic.
It's quite a mission statement. And you beat me to the front cover of Men's Health as well. I was very jealous on that one. Very jealous on that. But I mean, you say that it's open to all. What I find interesting, and it's a little bit what you said, and I was half joking with Matt Hancock. There will be a letter on the way though from Misfits. Offer coming over this afternoon, Mr. Hancock. Is what we have seen a couple of times is people who maybe haven't taken it as seriously as they should have, and not coming back. I'm not going to say names, but if you're not dedicated in this sport, it's not mini golf. Like Joe said, it's great that this world has chosen boxing, but you don't play boxing. And the level that KSI's taken it to requires that dedication of a true pro to travel his schedule with his team of trainers, etc., etc. And that's really where you'll see whether a Salt Pappy's round in 2 years' time. I think he will. I think he's an incredible talent, actually. He can really be built up to be something. But they will have to have that approach. The question is who has enough of that approach to challenge to the very top and to be there on for more than a show. It's a nice place to get eyeballs, but it's a painful place to get eyeballs if you ain't taking it seriously. Good question. Next one.
This is Connor on behalf of SCB. This is for JJ.
Mm-hmm.
What's your mindset and how are you feeling going into this fight?
Mindset-wise, I'm just ready. Yeah, I'm ready and excited. The hardest part of all my fights is the training. The training, just constantly having to push my body in another sphere, just constantly having to. Because there's so many times where I'm sure everyone can agree with this, where you train and then there's that mental that your mind just goes, just give up, or just stop, or just take a break, and then being able to tell that voice to just shut up and be able to continue and keep going. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I've just done that several times. I've just broken past that barrier several times, and yeah, I'm just ready. I'm excited. For me, getting in that ring, I'm not nervous. It's an excitement. It's the celebration of all the hard work that I've put in, and being able to show the people what I've been working on. I think it's awesome, man. It's crazy because people are gonna see an even scarier KSI than they did against Logan or against the Swarms or Pineda. Like all of that. Like I'm going to be even better than I was before, and I was doing push-ups in between fighting two people on one night, so it just shows like the levels that I'm at.
Jojo, just here with pro boxing fans. I don't know if you saw True Geordie's comments. You've talked about fighting Jake Paul, but he feels you'd be mental to go straight into Jake Paul after this without having a bridging fight in between. Do you agree?
Well, I mean, for me, no.
But based on what? I mean, sorry, that's a pro promoter's answer to it. Based on what?
Well,
beating Anderson Silva.
Well, he feels.
Like, based on what?
Well, he feels.
No, seriously, man.
He feels Dillon Danis is about the same level as Ben Askren.
Look, I think for me, like, I could fight Jake middle of next year if I wanted to. I was definitely offered to, but I said nah because I'm enjoying this too much. If I don't know if that's kind of weird. I'm just, I didn't expect to just be so obsessed with being able to just improve so much. I think I'm just on a level where I'm able to just keep going and keep going and keep going way further than I thought. Like, it's crazy. I never thought I'd ever be able to get a 5K under 20 minutes. And now I breeze past that. Now that's nothing. And to be able to just know that I could go further beyond, I think it's just sick. And I just don't really want to end it so quick, because I know as soon as I fight Jake, it's done. Like, I have no intrigue or interest to do anything else boxing-wise. So I don't know why I'd want to end it so quickly. I kind of just, I'm enjoying the journey too much.
Can I just ask, if Tommy Fury gets the Jake Paul fight before you, who do you think wins?
I hate to say it, I think Jake will win it. I think Tommy hasn't really been tested. Well, I think he's been tested a few times chin-wise, and he has been a bit wobbly. And I just think Jake has just dedicated more time into the training compared to Tommy. I think Tommy just does the boxing because it's the thing to do in his family, but I don't think he's as dedicated as someone like Tyson or his other brothers. So yeah, I just don't. I think Jake will win that, as much as I hate to say it.
It's Hashim with Pound for Pound Boxing. I just wanted to ask, does any of this surprise you, JJ, and for Callum and George, does any of this surprise you, how much he's done and how much he's helped progress kickboxing and bring it to a wider audience?
Doesn't surprise me, because we've worked together for 3 or 4 years, and I've known about his dedication, I've known about the leadership role he plays in this space, and his love for the sport, his commitment to the promotion of it. So from my perspective, from a DAZN perspective, it's not surprising at all, hence why we're investing as we are and excited about that.
I mean, I'd add, you've got to remember that the man is a 2022 mega entrepreneur, I would call it. It's a new breed of entrepreneurs. You start with zero, and then you publicly can see how many followers you have. That builds off onto, I don't know, this wonderful bottle of energy drink, which is actually very tasty.
Hydration drink.
Hydration drink. And I guess the world's your oyster at that point, because you've built up something that companies pay millions and billions of dollars to build up, and he's done it by himself out of his living room or bedroom in Watford. So, that's a modern day, call it Richard Branson, whatever you want to call it. That's just that's the way the world ticks today. I struggled to get to 100,000. So I look at that part, and then I really have to scratch my head and work out what drives this man to go through hell and back, because he don't need the money, he don't need the fame. I don't know what, he must love this sport so much, because it's not like they're doing it with 18-ounce gloves, yeah, and there's a set of rules to it. This is proper boxing fights. Yes, they are in classic pro terms at the beginning of a career, novice boxing, but it's pain. Yeah? So why put yourself through that? Why not focus on, I don't know, prime, the next prime, or whatever else it is?
Well, like I said, it just gives me purpose, man. The whole
strip back boxing, pro boxing. You do it for, you like the sport, you're talented at the sport, totally get that part. You do it for money, that's pro boxing, that's what it is. And you do it, some might do it for fame. But he's ticked every box, and so the only thing left is the love of the sport and enjoying it, which is sort of a bit wild, yeah.
I know a lot of people.
I mean, I like to work.
Well, I know, like,
set of weights.
I know a lot of people box so that they can make enough money to not box, whereas I'm doing the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm not even, like, I've got the money and I box because I just enjoy it. I just, like I said, the idea of just developing myself and improving myself, I just think it's sick. And I like, you know, with YouTube, with music, like I just love always improving. And I think that's, you know, as humans, what we're just meant to do, always just improve. You know, we make mistakes, but then we learn from those mistakes and get better at not making those mistakes again, and get better at just being a better person. So yeah, I think it's just dope.
Yeah, it's an incredible quality.
Hi there, Joel from Media Spotlight UK, specifically for JJ.
Yeah.
We've seen with your mentality leading into this fight, you've been enjoying food for a little bit as well with the sides. What triggered all that in terms of this? Is this a way of like taking jabs at Danis, and are we intensifying the training as we get closer to the fight?
Yeah, no, it was just a ploy. I was just trying to take the piss. You know, I did for about a week, and then I was just like, it's just not me. I can't do this. I'm a guy that, like, you know, I have to train hard. I have to, you know, do everything to the best of my abilities. I can't just not take it seriously. I thought I could try and do it for a little bit, and I was just like, it's just not me. So I just decided to be real and just do it proper and just, you know, go back to how I normally am.
Cool. And for Carol and Joe, when Misfits Boxing was first presented to you guys, what got to the trigger point of going like, yes, I'm going to invest in it? And obviously, it's really, really successful at this point now.
I think we're just scratching the surface, to be honest. I wouldn't even define what we've achieved so far as success. I think it's early indicators that it's going to be a success, but there's plenty more work to do, and our ambitions are well beyond where we're at right now. The primary attraction for us is audience. These guys move huge audiences, and the breadth of verticals in which they drive those audiences is incredible. Prime, YouTube videos, pay-per-view boxing. You know, these guys are great marketeers, as I said. So a long-term partnership with them is what we want to build. We want to be, to Callum's point, a sustainable home of this space. We want it to evolve. We want the participants to evolve, the types of people that fight to evolve. We're proactively looking to develop that. So that's my point about scratching the surface. And ultimately, we think we can build a very successful business around all this. As I said, the early indications are we're on the right path. But once we get through event 4, there'll be, you know, stepping back and looking at the future and building what we do in 2023 and in 2024 onwards. So we think it's a really healthy, sustainable, long-term investment for our business, and that excites us.
From my side, it was pretty much my last talk about JJ. That was the moment when we sat down, we sat with Mams and JJ in a room, and you know, it's about a long-term vision. It's not about promoting KSI versus Dillon Danis or KSI against Jake Paul. This is about creating a space in a very exciting area, and to making that space something that's there to last, built to last, and that's what Misfits is. It's not about KSI Danis. It's about the future. This is one event on a journey, and you know, we've already seen how quick it's moved. You know, we're already planning 005, 006, which will be in I think February, and in March will be also in the UK and the States. But we're looking at new territories as well, you know. And you know, the incredible thing is, you know, from our side, we've found this amazing partner in DAZN. But from the let's say the original crew of the Misfits, it's obviously JJ, it's Mams and my brother and myself. It's so everyone's on the same page, but we're all like in our own little worlds. So it somehow fuses together very naturally from day one, and it's you know, especially Mams, he keeps you on your toes. You know, it's learned that it's actually 26 hours in a day and not 24. I've worked that one out since we started, but it's great fun. We'll go from strength to strength.
JJ, one for you, but Calla and Joe, you can chip in, because I think it'd be great for business potentially. Lots of names mentioned in this room today, but one hasn't been mentioned. That's Andrew Tate. Would you be willing to fight him next, and would you put an offer in?
I mean, of course, like Andrew Tate is someone that says he'd fight anyone, and then when people come up to him with negotiations, he then goes, "Oh, I need warm-up fights." I think he knows if he loses a fight with either me or Logan, etc., his whole career ends. His whole situation ends. He can't, be this top G anymore because it just doesn't hold any weight anymore. So I think he's quite mindful of that fact, and look, it's always a fight that everyone's looking at. I'm looking at it. I would love to fight him, but it's not as easy as you think.
Well, Misfits perspective, one thing that really annoys me about this space, but then again it does that in classic boxing as well, is about when fighters say the contracts are out and he's got it on the table, signed the contract, this, that and the other. If I put a job offer into someone in the room and I said sign the contract, wouldn't you want to know what's in the contract? Like date, how much, etc. So in this world it's bandied about a lot. I'll put a contract out to him. You could put a contract out with $1 in it, and the fight's tomorrow. Would you sign it? No. So it's a loosely worded term. Jake Paul loves that wording as well. I just think that if you want to fight, and you've got, Jake Paul's got a very good name. Andrew Tate seems to be quite famous as well. Well, then why are they not going out and putting on shows? I'm not quite following it, because that's the way it works in boxing and in crossover boxing as well. Why is he fighting his third opponent in January in the space of 5 months? I don't know. That seems to be a bit odd. The amount of pull-outs, the amount of this, that and the other. We had a pull-out 2 weeks before, and then he decided to fight 2 guys in one night. I still haven't got over the shock at that moment when he told me, but it seemed to work okay. The numbers, I think, we were very happy with, and he broke history. So, there's a lot of talk, and I guess that's where this space comes from. Certain people seem to be better at it than others. That's from my side.
Yeah, we want big fights. I think Andrew Tate versus JJ would be a big fight, but I think he's thinking about January the 14th, and Cal and I and the team will think about the business side of it going forward. Maybe it's in the future, we'll see.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, and wish you all a Merry Christmas.